Hello, this is the Budget King. I'm going to do a real quick thing here on oil changes for your car. All right. Now, there's basically three types of oils. Okay, you got your full synthetic, your conventional, and then what they have is a synthetic blend, which is sort of a full synthetic mixed with a conventional. All right. Now, um, some people say drain all the all the oil out if you're going to do um, an oil change or if you add oil. Can you add full synthetic to conventional? Yeah, sure you can. If it's the same weight, make sure it's the same weight. You can add it to it, and then it becomes sort of like a synthetic blend. You can add conventional to the full synthetic, and then it becomes a synthetic blend. All right, but the problem is a lot of full synthetics, you can go 10,000 miles without an oil change. And a lot of conventionals, you don't want to go but 3,000 to 5,000 miles without an oil change. A lot of it depends on your filter, the oil, um, but you want to make sure that you do your oil change sooner than later, especially if you're adding a conventional to a full synthetic, because you've ruined the viscosity. I ain't gonna get into all that mumbo jumbo, but if you're a quart low, you just want to make sure that you always have the full capacity, don't overflow it, of course, of oil. And now, certain car manufacturers have certain standards, like GM has like Dexos, and there's certain standards they all have. You want to make sure that whatever oil you buy is the right weight and matches the standards. A lot of times you can look this stuff up on forums. I can't go through every um, car manufacturer and all that. I do short podcasts. Um, but doing your own oil change can save you money, but it can also be very dangerous. You want to make sure that you're using jack stands. If you pull it up on a ramp, usually it's nice to have two people if you're not familiar with it. Make sure they're of a high quality jack stands, and if you have a low profile car, make sure that your ramps will work with your ramp will work with the front of your car. Otherwise, you can tear the bottom of your front of your car off. So I actually like to use 4 jack stands, and I use a ramp. Um, you don't necessarily have to do that, especially if you got good jack stands. I just get a little paranoid, and it don't hurt me. Now, something else that's important is a lot of modern cars are made like garbage. And when I mean garbage, I mean, yeah, they're junk. When it comes to jacking up your vehicles, um, there's usually about 4 points that have a thick enough welding area to jack it up. Now, there's other parts of the vehicle that you can jack it up, but that's too hard to explain because every vehicle is a little bit different, and you start jacking up around certain areas, you can start ripping things off. So generally behind the front of the wheel, or the front tires, a few inches back on the side, you might see these little triangular points, and then you'll look in there and you'll see where there's a little bit thicker piece of metal along this edge. Now, not all cars are the same, so I'm just saying with a few cars I know, okay? But your best bet is to, go to YouTube and look up your car, your year, and make sure that you know what you're doing. Otherwise, you can actually destroy um, the strength of certain parts of your vehicle, because you can literally tear metal, because cars are very heavy and the metal is very cheap. Um, so if you don't know, then you'll have to go somewhere where they'll have the proper equipment for lifting your vehicle or getting underneath your vehicle for an oil change. But if you're fully confident and you figure it all out, you can do it safely, then you can save yourself some money by doing your own oil change. Um, Unfortunately, it isn't like the old days where cars are made of some really thick steel and you could pretty much put your your jack anywhere. I mean, um, I have a Volkswagen Passat 2018, and it literally has a plastic oil pan and a plastic plug that goes in the oil pan. It's an R line. I thought it was somewhat sporty. I mean, it's decent on fuel. I read a few good things about it, so I decided to buy it. Am I crazy about it? Not really, but it does do a 10,000 mile oil change. And of course, I make sure I get the 10,000 mile filter with it, so I don't, you know, go cheap on my filter. I make sure I get one that's, they call it OEM. All right, that's what your manufacturer recommends. That's the correct one for it. Um, and I make sure I get the oil that's the right standard. And of course, I do oil changes on some other vehicles, my wife's and stuff like that. But always put safety first when you're dealing with things that weigh over a ton or even under a ton, because saving money is not worth your life. But I'm not crazy about Walmart doing my oil. I'm not even crazy about taking my vehicle to my manufacturer. I'd rather do it myself. I've always liked doing oil myself. And I know some people will say, oh, that's above my pay grade, whatnot. It's very simple to do as long as you take the proper steps and you have the right equipment. And the right equipment's not even that expensive in the long run because you can use it over and over again. But you can run over the ramps and they can shoot back underneath your car. You can run them over the side. Some of them are real thick, heavy-duty plastic. Can they crack? Sure, why not? You can get metal ones that can bend. You can get jacks that can blow their hydraulics. And even jack stands are only as good as the weld. Fortunately, I know what a good weld looks like. I can look at the quality of stuff. When I do put my jack stands underneath, I go from the side. And I've done my research on making sure I get the right oil for my car. So you can do the same thing. It's not rocket science, but it kind of is, because these cars are real sensitive towards just about everything. So just be careful. Like I said, do your research, and you can save your money doing your own oil change. But if you're not exactly sure, then spend a little extra money, because it's not worth saving yourself 30 or 40 bucks. Well, there's other things you need to change too, but cabin filters and air filters and all that. But you know, I could do a whole show on that. But first thing I wanted to do is try to explain conventional oils and synthetic oils and synthetic blends, and just make sure that you're getting the right filters. Don't necessarily just take any old filter. Make sure it's a high mileage filter if you're using a full synthetic trying to get 10,000 miles. So, all right, that's it for today, and thank you very much. You can support my page with patreon.com/thebudgetking. You can do the PayPal, pay.me/Davis Husband. Of course, visit my page, thebudgetking.com. Of course, listen to my other podcast. You can get me on Spotify and many, many other podcast places right now. So thank you very much. Have yourself a wonderful day.